Well, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Pastor Rich, Pastor Lynn, the wives. It's just an honor to be here. My wife and I, probably about 4 months ago, we were thinking about doing a ministry trip. So we started praying and talking. And we both have been on trips before. We've co-led, but we've never led before. So this is a stretch for us. And so we asked Julie Mustard. She's been here before. Great friends of ours. Is there any places left that we could go? Because a lot of the trips have already been, the leaders have already been established. So she sent us a list, and I think there's 8, 10. And right in the middle was Boise. And we've always wanted to come to Boise. Janine lived in Twin Falls for a while when she was young. I've never been here before, but that started stirring in our hearts. So we started praying, and then we felt this is the trip that we need to go on. So we're here. I got an amazing team right here. God handpicked these people right here. It is such an honor to be here. So thank you. I'm going to share a little bit of my testimony and share some testimonies. Then we'll have some ministry time at the end. I came from a very large family. I have, it's kind of rare, but I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters, so there's 11 of us in our family. But out of the 11, there's 3 sets of twins. And have you ever heard, baseball fans, the Minnesota Twins? Well, I'm a Minnesota twin because I was born in Minnesota, and I am a twin. So I'm a Minnesota twin. My dad softened up a little bit because he came from a family of 20. So my dad was the middle of 20, and then my mom and dad had 11 kids. So I was a very baby out of all of them. Even my twin brother was born before me. So I'm the baby of 11. And so we were born in Minnesota, and at that time, it was, can you imagine 11 kids? That was a lot for my mom and dad. By the time my dad was 45, my mom was 42, and they had another set of twins. So you can imagine, my mom and dad were just pretty much wore out. And so when Jeff and I, my twin brother's name is Jeff, came home, we came into a lot of dysfunction and a lot of poverty in that time. I was born in 1960. And then after that, there were so many different things that happened in my life I'm not aware of. I'm sure it affected me some way or another. We came home in November of 1960. January 4th of 1961, one of my sisters they discovered a tumor in her brain. She was 4 years old at the time. And all the attention went right onto Diane because they had to take care of her. So Jeff and I kind of got left out a little bit. And then within 2 years of that, both my mom and my dad both had a nervous breakdown. And so all the kids got fostered out to different homes. I didn't really know what family was until about 6 or 7, when finally everything's kind of settled back down, and a lot of the older kids are out of the house. And really at the home, at that time, there's only the last 4 were 2 sets of twins, Dick and Diane and Jeff and Jerry. And so that's when things started settling down. It was somewhat of a normal home, you know what I mean? There was a lot of moving around, a lot of poverty. And then we moved to Iowa, lived in a little town called Esterville. And then from there we moved to Arizona when I was 12. And there's only 3 of us out of the 11 that moved to Arizona. My sister Diane, and she's a walking miracle, because back in 1961, go back to her, she had a tumor of the brain. And back then they didn't have everything that they have nowadays. And they used cobalt treatment. I don't really know what that is. And they said that she would not live or be a vegetable, basically. Well, she came out of that. She was slow, but she was able to live a pretty much normal life. She could never drive or anything like that, but she lived on her own from the time she was 18 on. So she was a walking miracle right there. Go back to the big family. We're Minnesota Catholic farmers. That's why there were so many of us in that family. So by the time we got to Arizona when I was 12, but there was just the three of us. Diane, Jeff, and Jerry, and my mom and dad. And so things were pretty normal. I mean, mom and dad, they didn't know anything about love. They didn't know anything how to really raise us. I say a lot of it, we were raised by our grandparents in a way, because they were just so worn out from the years and all the stuff that goes on. And so in high school, I just started hanging around with the wrong group. Even though they were a great group of friends, we just did the party scene. I mean, that was my identity, is doing a lot of partying, doing a lot of drinking, started doing drugs, because that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. I got married, my first marriage when I was 18, thinking, no, this is the escape I need to find myself. I didn't even have a clue what to be as a husband, because I had no model in front of me. The whole time I was in and out of the Catholic church. You know, I'd go there for a while and then leave, and then during high school and up, I hardly ever went, maybe on Easter or Christmas when you're supposed to, I guess. And then two things happened in my life that totally changed my life. About 25, I was still not being responsible, not being a good husband at all. But I got a call one morning, and my sister called me and said my mom had passed away. And that was like, she was 68, and that was like the first awakening that I got, because I never had to deal with stuff like that. I was always into myself, and so it was pretty dramatic. And it was like God uses all things for the good. And that was like a wake-up call, like, Jerry, you need to straighten up here. So at that time, I stopped hanging around with the people that I was hanging around with, stopped doing drugs. I was still drinking. But it's like, there's got to be something more. Got to be something more. And so at that time that my mom passed away, I was actually separated from my wife at that time. And we got back together. And then things are a little bit normal. And then she came about a month later and said she was pregnant, and I'm like, yes. And I thought, this is it. This is what I need. We ended up having a baby girl, and shortly after that, things still was not working. We ended up getting a divorce, and at that time, one more thing. 9 months after my mom passed away, my dad passed away. So I had two deaths within 9 months of each other that totally rocked my world. And then we got a divorce. It just wasn't going to work. I was still trying to find what life's all about. I knew who God was. I just didn't have that relationship with Him. And then at that time, my ex-wife could not handle being a mom. So at the age of 1.5, I raised Shara all by myself. And that was a godsend. She was a dream to have this little girl that you can raise. And God used that little girl so much in my life. So at that moment, at that time, I'm like, all right, I got to go back to the church. I got to find where I'm missing something here. So I went back to the Catholic Church, and right when I walked in the door, nothing against the Catholic Church, God says, this is not the church I want you to be at. And I'm like, okay. It's the first time I've kind of heard that inner voice, you know. And the next weekend, I went to, a friend invited me to a church called New Hope in Tempe, Arizona. And that was the first time I've ever experienced this, worship, a message, you know. And it was like, wow, this is good. And I was single at the time, was raising Shara, and so I got involved with the singles group. And I just started really growing in the Lord, understanding, but I wasn't, no one ever came up to me with this and said, do you know what Jesus did for you on the cross? No one ever explained this to me. And so one of the singles that was in the group, he did DJing at night to earn extra money. And we had an intern singles pastor at that church at that time. So we both went to this bar, and we were helping him set up so he can do his DJing. And I was sitting there, I was still drinking beer, and I sat at the bar, I was drinking a beer, and Tony came up to me and goes, Jerry, can we go outside and talk? And that's the first time he totally explained this gospel to me. So outside of a bar in Tempe, Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona, I gave my life to the Lord. And from then on, it's been a journey. But my life has never been the same. My life has never been the same. I raised that little girl, Shara, all by myself during that time. I can remember I worked for Coca-Cola. And she was probably 2.5. I was a sales rep for them. And I had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 6:30. And I'm like, Lord, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to take Shara? A good friend down the street, they had 2 little girls as well. And she said, Jerry, I'll make a deal with you. You can bring Shara to my house every morning. Just don't even knock on the door. Just come in, it'll be open. You just walk in and put her in his bed for her, and then you can leave, and then I'll wake up with her. So every single morning I had to carry, it was only like 2 blocks away was good. She was still asleep, and I would just pick her up, drive down there, drop her off. Just all these things that God started doing in my life were just incredible. To show me His love and His goodness. And then at that church, I met Janine. So we were there. I was there for about 3 years. She came, and she found the Lord at that church as well. And at that time, they would do little skits up at front, to go along with the message, kind of something that church did. And I did skits. I was part of it, and so Janine wanted to do part of it as well. So God did a prophetic act way back then that I didn't even understand. The first time that Janine and I did a skit together, we were husband and wife. So he set that all up. So about 1.5 years later, we got married. And then we had 2 boys of our own, Drake and Andrew. Drake is 20 now, Andrew's 16. It's amazing how fast they grow up, isn't it? These kids. To love them where they're at right now. I remember so many times of just reading them books every night, reading the Bible to them. It was just a treasure to me. We'd read so many books that they'd have them memorized, really. But this story with Shara was heart-wrenching. Let me see what time it is. When her mom and I divorced, she was 1.5 years. And she said, Jerry, there's a chance she's not yours because of the separation and everything that's going on. And so when we got married, her mom wanted back in the picture because there was another mom in the picture. So it kind of was a battle, you know how that is with divorce and custody. Anyway, Shara lived with us for a while, lived with them for a while. Long story short, when Shara was 15, we went and had the test done. Even though God had given her to me, after the test, I was not her dad at all, biological dad. But I had the opportunity to raise her and to show her God's love. Long story short, we ended up, Janine and I just always followed the Lord. Wherever He was leading, we left that church not out of offense or anything. God just said it's time to move on. We go to a Spirit-filled church. We get filled with Spirit, start flowing in all this. We go help plant another church in Arizona. This is all in Arizona. And then that little church that we got saved at was a Nazarene church. That's called New Hope. So we go all the way around, and we knew that we needed to step back from ministry for a while because we were doing family and parenting ministry. And then we, all right, Lord, what church do you want us to go to? He took us back to a whole nother Nazarene church. But it was just God's plan. And then within about 6 months, I started working at that church as a facility director. And all this time, Janine and I are hungry and stirring and like, there's got to be more, Lord. And so we kept reading books and going to conferences. And then I went on a mission trip in March of 2006 to Mexico, and I actually took Drake with me. It was awesome taking your kids on a mission trip. And this lady came up to me, and she was a good friend of mine, Becky. She goes, Jerry, I have this book, and you need to read it. This is so you, what you're looking for. And it was Bill Johnson's book, When Heaven Invades Earth. I have never heard of Bill. I never heard of the church, nothing. So this is March. I read the book, and then it's like my spirit becomes alive. What's going on? This is good. So I actually went and visited the church in April. And the next month, they had a little conference, so I went there. I'm like, and I knew they had a school, but I didn't even think nothing about school because 6 months earlier, Janine and I were talking about moving. I told her and the Lord, I'm comfortable here in Arizona. Don't say you're comfortable to the Lord, because it doesn't work. So I go there in April, go to this conference, just get wrecked by what was happening there. And on the way home, it was clear as a bell. I mean, I'm not a school person. I barely graduated high school, barely. I tried 1 year of college, and anyway, so I'm like, the Lord is saying, I want you to go to school. I want you to go to this school, the School of Supernatural. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm in. It was just so peaceful and so like easy, you know what I mean? So I get home and I said, Janine, I need you to sit down. I got to talk to you about something. And then she says to me, we're going to move to Redding, aren't we? Because the Holy Spirit already prompted her, so we are in union together. So, but I couldn't move my wife. So I applied for the school, and I said, I can't take my wife to Redding without her seeing Redding, okay? So we made a trip in June there, and we leave Phoenix, it was 110, 111. Who's been to Phoenix before in the heat? Yeah. Well, we get to Redding, it's 115. So for 3 days, 4 days, we're like 115, 112, 110, you know. It's like, wow, we're not getting away from the heat. But we knew that this was where God was leading us. I get back home, first in the mail that next day was, you're accepted. And I'm like, all right, Lord, this is now, okay, we're going for it. We're in. We're stepping in. But there's a lot of things that have to be answered here, Lord, for us to make this big journey. We just bought our house. It was our dream home. And so we had to sell that on a down market because it was coming back down in Phoenix. How to pay for the school, how to, just different things, find a home in Redding to live. Anyway, and finding a replacement for me, it was dear in my heart. I loved the church I was working for, to find a replacement for me. So God answered all of those. One of the biggest ones is in this down market, we sold our house the very first day, full price, not even a quiver. Because of time, I won't go all the way into this, but Janine's mom married a man in their later years. She was 73. He was like 78. Divine, I'm saying divine marriage. She was not looking for a husband. God brought them together within 3 months that they're married. It was perfect. I mean, it's just one of these things you can't even scribe. You can't even write the story. God just wrote the story. long story short, Jack, great man of God, loved this guy, so funny. It was an accident. In that accident, he slipped into a coma, and the doctors gave up on him. That time, Janine and I and our friends of ours were contending for healing. And so, one morning at our church, I was getting up front, and I was praying at the altars we had there. And I got up, and there was a bottle of anointing oil sitting next to me. And God put it on my heart. Go pray for Jack and anoint him with this oil. So I go to the hospital room, and he's out. He's in a coma, nothing. So I pray over him, kiss him on the forehead. I was there about 45 minutes and just released healing over him. I mean, he didn't budge, he didn't wake up, nothing. The next day, we were sitting at the dinner table, and Janine's mom called and said, "You're not going to believe this, but Jack is up, he's eating, there's nothing wrong with him." And what's really crazy, he had a balding head, and he had a scar because they had to actually open him up because they thought he had pressure on the brain from a blood clot or something. But when they opened him up, he had an infection of the brain, so it was pus on the brain. That's why he had a staph infection on his brain, and that's why he slipped into that coma. Anyway, when he was healed, the scar was taken away as well. You could not see the scar. So anyway, long story short, I'm going to get to some ministry time. Jack came up to us and he goes, "We so believe in you guys moving to Reading and going to this school that I'm going to pay for all 3 years and all your mission trips." So we moved to Reading. I go to first year. After that, I got hired on staff. I've been on staff there for 8 years. And one of the things that God has done in my heart, I can remember this moment. I sat down with my family, and I asked them, "What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known? Like at your funeral, at your memorial, what are people going to say about you?" And the kids were 7 and 11, and they kind of gave some different answers. I don't quite remember. I think we wrote them down. But one of the things that was deep, deep inside of me is I wanted to be known for love. Because all the other things are good. I'm not downplaying prophecy, healing, everything. But what does it say at the end? The greatest of these is love. And love never fails. So that was my journey of love. I wanted to be known for love. I wanted to experience His love, that I can give it away. Because that's how it works. You get His love, you give it away, and He gives you more love. It just kind of is a funnel that flows in and out of you. And I've never really experienced that before in my family, because you heard my background of my parents and stuff. So that was my journey, to be a man of love. I've been at Bethel for 8 years. And I got to say, He has shown me His love, and I'm able to demonstrate that love to so many different people. Because love changes. One touch of love changes. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing. One touch of His love, you're never the same. You're never the same. And so that's my journey. That's my story. Whenever I can, I work at. I'm not a pastor at the church. I'm a project manager and an event coordinator. But I have a love for the Lord and love for people, and that's why I'm here, and that's why God sends me around. So today we're going to do some ministry, but I really sense, and this is what the Lord put in my heart, that people here, and this is not a negative. I'll go back. We're going to rent 3 cars to drive here, and I was just going to get full-size cars, just Chevrolet Impala, whatever they are. But then I realized, our luggage might not fit in just 3 full size because there's 12 of us. That's 4 to a car. So I called and said, hey, can we get an upgrade on one of them? And they wanted to charge us an extraordinary amount of money. I'm like, no, I don't think that's going to work. And then I called back, and he goes, all right, we'll give you 1 free upgrade. So we got one of these nice Suburbans out here. So I grabbed the team, and we went to go pick it up. And instead of 1 upgrade, he gave us 3. So I had 3 Suburbans and an Expedition or Explorer. So that's the start of upgrade that God put on this trip. So when I'm going back to this love thing, it's not negative. There's people here that experience love. There's love all over this place. But we can't even fathom how much more he loves us. So there's people in this room that need an upgrade, that need another touch, to go to the next level. Again, it's not a negative, but to experience more of his love than you've ever experienced before. And then you can experience his love and give it away. Because that's the key to getting more, is you got to give it, and the more you give, you got to give it away. Then it keeps flowing in and out of you. Bill has taught us that so profoundly at the church. Whatever you receive, you got to give it away. You give it away, you get more. You hold it inside, it just becomes dormant inside you. Give it away. Give it away. So I'm going to invite you, who needs that special touch, the upgrade of love, to come forward. The worship leader primed this for us. Step out of the aisles and come forward. So I'm giving that invitation right now. Whoever needs an upgrade on their love, just step out of your chairs, come forward, and our team's going to meet you right down here. And we're going to start praying for you. So, Father, we invite your presence, your love that transforms people's lives, to come right now. These people took a step of faith and came forward, Father, because they want to experience more of your love. Love that transforms people's hearts. Love that takes everything away. That takes all the mistakes away. That takes all the pressure away. That takes all the things that keep us back. Because love never fails. It never gives up. It never runs out. Your love never runs out. So, Father, I ask that you touch each and every one of them right now in that special place, in that heart that they have for you, that heart would grow and they could give it away, Father. Because that's how the kingdom is, to give your love away. So if you keep playing, our ministry team, just start ministering to these people right here.